That's one thing I'll give the normal Kahuna. He can read just fine. Not like me. But he knows jack squat about introducing something he's working on. So you bring me the ultimate Kahuna. And I'm telling you, 8 p.m. West Coast time, the ultimate Kahuna will give way to the normal Kahuna to do a live reading. You will watch it, and you will enjoy it. Woo!
Normal. Me too.
Kikoman, you're doing it wrong. Woo! And now it's time for a live reading. Definitely need to update some of my intros, but alas, welcome to IronAge Legends! Woo! That's what I like. And introducing my second guest on the show that will be shaping my channel moving forward. Besides my fabulous mustache and hair, we have MD Boncher. Say hello, everybody. Let's see who we got in the chat. We'll say hi to the chat real quick. Coming in first, we have RH Snow sliding in, getting a home run.
The queen of the IronAge. Welcome.
JP Stazak. I don't know who that is, but welcome. Welcome.
Hey, JP. Way to slum it.
Boncher brings his own. He's like, I'm like, I have fans. He's like, I brought my
fan. I have a fan.
Heck yeah. We have animation overload. Woo!
Too much animation.
Woo! We have AS Brunert. We have Jersey. All right. So welcome to the show, MD. How did you respond when I was asked you to come on as my second guest on IronAge Legends?
Appropriately.
Shirtlessly, yes.
No.
Not today. No, that's private time.
Yes.
Lovely shirts.
Yeah, that's with me and Bambo, not with you. You go shirtless all you want elsewhere. No.
Oh, I had Herman in my chat earlier at some point in a different show.
I'm so sorry.
I know. He's the perfect person. He's the perfect a-hole to have in the chat, honestly.
Yeah,
I love you.
He kind of is. Yeah, if he's not giving you crap, you know he doesn't like you.
Oh, yeah. It's like, if he's not saying anything, he's just not enjoying himself. And so,
I think he lurks a lot.
So, my first IronAge guest, the prolific Lord Otter, released his first book recently, and it was met with good acclaim, and I enjoyed it myself. I gave it a decently high rating for someone's first outing as an author and as a fantasy writer. Mm-hmm. But this is a very different case with you. You have 2 different series and a second book in your fantasy series coming out soon. I have here the first book in your Christian fantasy series, Akiniwazi Saga.
Akiniwazi Saga. Yes.
What a cool cover too, dude. It's not like this is not like the typical like Conan the hero. This is a little boy and an old man with a spear versus the horde of the undead.
Draugr. I went with Viking zombies.
You did.
Yeah. Sorry, RH. I'm not one of your subjects. I am just an admirer from afar. You cannot have obeisance.
Plus, let's be honest. Bambo is the queen in his life.
You darn well better remember that. She's a better shot than I am.
Oh crap! I've talked to her. I believe it. And then we also have your. Let me see if I could share that real quick. We have your sci-fi series. And would you call is it proper to call it the Dream Nebula series? Or
that's fine. Tales from the Dream Nebula or Dream Nebula series. That's what I do.
That's what I do. Let's see. And
there could be many queens, different kingdoms.
Yeah, for sure. There we go. This is one of the wonderful images you built. You were able to generate for your main character.
Oh yes, that is Winston Harper, a sky trucker who runs upon hard times and gets scooped up into the fun and excitement of intrigue that surrounds a rebellion against a I guess you would say a omniversal, universal, we don't know where we are, tyrant, Zhao the Eternal.
The adventure of a lifetime. There we go.
True. In a world where there isn't a world, where we talk about a world that could be.
Two men. But
Two
it's
brothers.
just me here.
It's two brothers.
Two brothers
So
doing a thing.
No, that's a Rick and Morty reference from Intergalactic Cable.
100%, yeah.
I know my Rick and Morty.
How many J. Michael Vincents will it take?
Yes.
Oh, like the name is, it just sounds like an 80s action star. I was like looking it up. I'm like, I think it's fake, right? I was looking it up. I don't think it's a real person. Couldn't find it.
Jan Michael Vincent?
I was born in 94, man.
I grew up watching Airwolf when it came out, and then I discovered he was with George Papard in a made-for-TV movie for ABC called Damnation Alley. That is just a schlockfest, fun piece of junk. It made me scared to death of Madagascar hissing cockroaches. Because it's when you have thousands of them coming out of what seems to be an abandoned gas tank. Oh, geez.
I have my own cockroach story, but alas, I figured I could read a small portion of one of the two books of yours that I've delved into a little bit.
Okay. Oh, you did get to a Kitawazi Saga, huh?
Not all the way. I did read portions of it, but I've been
disclaimer, I am not going to be held responsible for any tongue sprains.
I don't know about that, man. I've read this a little bit before, and I was concerned. It was tough.
That's why I put a glossary in the back. When you go to the Old Norse, yes, in the back is a pronunciation guide.
In the back, yeah.
In the back of the book.
Oh, the book, map. Yeah, for sure, the book.
Ja, das ist gut, ja, tell Sie was.
Okay, I'm going to zoom in here. I'll switch our screen, and then I'll do a small, quick reading.
I'll shut up and let you do your thing.
Do your thing, Chicken Wing. Okay, this is about as good as I can get based on that, but that's just fine. Okay, let's see. One second here. Stop screen. Present. Share screen. Amazon tonight on ABC. And here we go. Let's open up right here. A lot of terms. You got your little Bible verse. You got the dedication.
Yeah.
This is chapter 1 of Akiniwazi Saga. Winning the battle, losing the war. We turn in some background music just real quick.
The music I sent you will not be appropriate for this.
I kind of want... Yeah, I did consider that.
Yo,
Anthony Ratonelli. And here we go. Like most farmholds in Akiniwazi, the little collection of families in...
At Etterstrand
sat down to eat supper. Their bountiful crops rustled lightly in the breeze. Crickets sang the lullaby of the evening as the land settled in for the night. The rolling boom of breaking waves on the beach was softened by a thin screen of cedars that sat between the settlement fields and the shore. Hold on, I'm going to turn on a quick little something real quick. Music helps me read a little bit when I'm reading aloud. Let's see.
Understood. I have an entire playlist when I write.
Let me see here. Not quite appropriate. I do have some fantasy music being composed for my channel, which will help a lot.
Oh,
but
very nice.
That's something I've been working on. Anyway. The smoky air over the hearths was thick with the aroma of savory goat stews and baking barley clap bread. Sporadic laughter drifted from longhouses as the farmholders sat around telling sagas, singing songs, and talking over their pipes about what tomorrow might bring. The year was in her prime and promised to be an excellent harvest. Raymar! Anton barked at his son. His hand shot out a split second too late to prevent the stringy boy from tripping over the 2 buckets of water sitting by his feet. Anton let out a curse as the spill washed around the hearth and out the door. Raymar looked up at his father, more afraid than hurt, his eyes already starting to burn with tears. You better not start, Bjorn, his eldest brother, taunted. Shut up! Anton snapped at his gloating Anton, my bad. Shut up! Anton snapped at his gloating firstborn. Nearby, little Katrin, the youngest, cuddled a rag doll to her face as their father prepared to lose his temper. Eric, his second oldest, stopped mid-chew as he watched the eruption. Anton's eyes, hot with exasperation, turned towards Raymar. His wife, Annette, gave an exasperated sigh and crossed her arms. Anton, not now, she scolded and turned her disapproving eyes towards Raymar. You coddle him too much, he groused, and glared at Annette. Raymar held still. Anton shook a finger at his son. This boy's a milksop thanks to your constant doting. He is 10, she said, rubbing her forehead. You can have him when he turns 13. Till then, he is mine. Look at Bjorn and Eric. They turned out just fine, and I treated them the same. Both boys smiled at their unimpressed father. Raymar was accustomed to Mom and Papa fighting over how she raised them. Papa seemed to believe that all boys should go from babies straight into adulthood. Mom would have none of it. You were off in the fields or the pinery all day hunting and logging. It is my job to make sure our boys are ready for you to make them men when the time comes, she snapped. Anton said nothing for a long moment, then tore a chunk of bread from the loaf which had been cooling on the iron rack. He scooped another ladle of stew into his bowl with a sloppy splat and sat back down in his chair. Annette leveled her cool blue eyes on her youngest boy. Go get some more water, she ordered softly. Ja, Mom. Raymar obeyed. He picked up the now empty buckets and let himself out the door of the longhouse. Torvald Scroats, their big orange cat, sat promptly near the threshold with a dead rat in his mouth, anticipating reward. He complained with a meow muffled by the body parts of his prize. Go away, cat. You're not getting any scraps tonight. Papa's mad, so eat what you got. The cat gave an insulted snort, and with a rude flick of his tail, sauntered away with his trophy, dismissing the boy. Even the animals are mad at me. Raymar griped as he scuffed away to fetch the water in the last minutes of evening light. The farmhold had 2 squares of homes inside its circular stockade, one in the northwest quarter, the other in the southwest. The southwest quadrant housed a set of pens and barns for livestock, where the llamas, chickens, goats, and pigs settled down for the night. In the empty northeast, the grass of the square had been shorn nearly to the ground by grazing animals, and the plan was to build more homes there come next year. A pattern of stakes laid out the foundations of several small round houses and 4 additional long houses. 3 young families were waiting for the chance to build, but the stockade had taken precedence. As he trudged to the well, Raymar wondered when Papa would ever accept him. He could not help how he was. Bjorn had so many physical gifts, and Eric was smart, but he was always in the wrong place at the wrong time, with the wrong thing to say. He kicked a clod of dirt, making a satisfying cloud of dust. Raymar looked up as the farmhold's guard changed on the stockade. These high walls helped the guards keep watch for many threats to the farmhold and its fields. It looked like Joni Courtson coming off of the scaffold. He was a big, strapping man who kept his blonde beard cut short, but his mane of hair streamed down his back, the girls fawning over him as he took his time to choose a bride. enjoying the attention, much to his widowed father's irritation. Raynar's own tangled mop of hair was nowhere near as long as Joni's, but it had the same uncontrollable waves. Now, I think we'll stop there just because I don't know how far exactly I should read. I didn't plan it out as well this time.
That's all right. That's all right.
I hope this gives you a taste for his prose, perhaps, because his prose is excellent in both of the stories of his that I've tasted and read, and they're very distinct. You know when and how to use the English language to its perfection, in my opinion. I think you're one of the better finished writers in the Iron Age, and I mean that with full sincerity.
Well, thank you very much. That's rather humbling, especially since I listen to my own writing in that book, especially, and I'm going, I can do so much better now. But no, do not touch. Do not. It does not. I've already re-released it once because I made it easier to read. As hard as that is, I made it easier because I took out all the Old Norse names, for positions and jobs. So instead I was calling sailors yeomen, all that. So I only left titles in and place names in the what would have been the Old Norse and Ojibwe corruptions that they would use.
Okay.
Because I chose Ojibwe and Oneida to kind of mash together for the language of the Scareslinger for the natives. I figure I'm not going to insult any tribe. I'll just sort of spread out any of the hate that's there. But I've not had any problems from anybody because I don't really try to treat them like trash.
Yeah.
And racism is a theme throughout the entire thing because I tried to keep the cultures very true to what they would have been at that time. And let's face it, racism was a way of life. But you'll meet later on. I have
it would kind of like historically it would kind of come and go depending on the needs of the culture at the time. When things were very bad and like they were constantly being invaded, of course they were racist. They don't want the other. They want just themselves, and they can barely manage. And if they can manage that, then at the time they would have been considered a successful nation, in my opinion.
Right, and in this case, you have two trapped civilizations that are basically in a war for control of the same land, and the Scareslinger are the natives, and the Forsumling are the Vikings that came over. Forsumling is basically means congregation. Since in this version, I'm using post-pagan Vikings, so this is when after
Christian Vikings back when
Yeah.
I've learned a little bit about that period of history.
They don't want to write about it.
I know, like I was reading about the Pikes and the Anglo-Saxons and all that jazz. I'm like, at what point are they no longer Vikings? Because like some of them were originally Norse that came over, and then they've been there so long they're now the new version of English, and it's very strange because it's like the old Vikings who have been there and established are now being invited by a fresh set. Basically, it's a weird kind of idea.
Well, it's you have to realize that the term Viking is actually a derivation of the term to go a Viking, which in their language was to go raiding. So Vikings meant effectively raiders. So I have the Forsumling, who are basically the Scandinavian people. The people that are here come from Denmark, Norway. They brought over Irish slaves. They brought over Scottish slaves in this situation. They brought out and Sweden, Finland, even probably some Estonians, but they would pick up people along the way.
I forgot about Estonians. Yeah, I completely.
They are not Slavic people, and they will make sure you know. They are Scandinavian, and they are proud of it. But exactly. I took basically what were the nations of the time. I decided because I wanted to have literal Christianity in this setting. That's what made it so difficult and how this sort of world shaped up. I wanted
how closely do we follow real life history and how
1000
how closely tied? Yeah,
1000. It's the old world to 1000 AD. That's when I have my first person, the first discovery of my version of North America, the fantasy version of the Great Lakes and everything. You can see a map in the back of the book that shows it, and basically where the Vikings came around to my version of of Hudson Bay, which is called the Casino Sea, because there you go.
Oh,
So
that came out pretty good. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, that turned out well, and that's all hand drawn.
You can see the Great Lakes.
Yep.
It's fantastic, man.
I
remember picking up the book. Anytime I buy a new book, I kind of flip through it just to kind of get an idea. Like, are there interior illustrations? Are there maps? I'm always curious, and I always appreciate little attention to detail here and there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I will fully admit I ripped off the idea from Richard Adams. He put both a glossary and multiple maps in the back of Watership Down, which was one of my favorite books for so long.
See, I never read the book. I just watched the movie when I was a child, and
scarred for life. Gotcha.
Yeah, I
love that thing.
Very young.
I love that thing, but oh my god, the first time you see that dog is like, then you see General Woundwort, and you're like, okay, I'm done here.
Gassing out rabbits and what is there cannibalism, or am I misremembering? I can't remember.
There's no cannibalism in that.
Okay, I see. Like, it's been so I never touched it again, so I don't even fully remember.
Yep. Exactly. I loved it because I was so infatuated. By the time from like the 6th grade is when I read it first. I read it maybe 4 times by the time I got through middle school. I loved it that much. And what's funny is that I read that book while listening to the soundtrack to Thief by Tangerine Dream. And so I have certain chapters that are stuck in my head with things with a James Caan heist film. So it's just a really weird mix. I was a strange kid. I did not listen so much to Top 40 as much as I listened to what at the time was called space music or New Age.
Psychedelic even.
Oh, yeah. I screwed my head up by listening to Jean-Michel Jarre and reading Stephen King's The Long Walk.
Oh.
And the album Zuluk matches way too well. It is.
I'm trying to remember. I was listening to like this dark fantasy music while reading the first the Gunslinger, and
yeah, I can't read that. I just
I like it, but it's not for everyone. I completely understand if they're not into it.
I'm a purist of classic Stephen King, pre 1989 and sticking to his horror. I don't like the way he does literary fiction, and I don't like the way that he does fantasy. It just doesn't sit well with me. Now, I still consider him to be a master of short fiction, and I think
he is.
And The Stand is one of my favorite novels of all time.
That's that's one I haven't read. It's a long book, isn't it?
I can't find it anymore. I must have lost it in a move, but I had the unabridged 1,300-page monstrosity at one time, and I have read it. I own the miniseries. Oh, sorry. 1 second here. Somebody wants desperate attention.
Golden Pony Boy.
Oh, come here.
Oh, we got a kitty cat.
Yeah, Sam is sniffing around for attention. He's sick.
Oh,
and
everybody in your house has been sick recently, haven't they?
I want a refund for January. Yeah, Sam, unfortunately, has been very sick. We've been very concerned about him not making it. We've had him to the vet and everything, but we've had to go, well, Sam, if you give up, you're going to give up, but just don't make us have to take you out back and put you out of your misery.
Yeah, I had to do that for my grandma just with her dog just this last year. It was not a great time, but no, I'll pray for your cat, man. I'm sorry you guys have been so sicky recently. It's no fun.
Yeah, he's been a little bit of a stressor. Yeah, Sam, he was supposed to be named Sam Wise, but unfortunately he proved no wise to him, so he got shortened to Sam.
That's appropriate.
Yeah. He's one of 4 cats that we have. The others are Lizzie, the big bulldog-looking cat we have. She's our trouble child. If the good die young, Lizzie's going to live forever. Then you have Dot. She's the cute one, named for Dot Warner. And then you have Little Bit, who is fluffy little Himalayan. This turkey is half Maine Coon. Yeah. And by the way, RH, I am so sorry for the loss of Peppermint there.
She lost her doggy recently too, and certain dog breeds just don't live forever, and like none do. But like we had Goldens that lasted, like they're supposed to live until 12 or 13. Both of our Golden Retrievers lasted until like 17 and 18. They were old.
Oh, nice.
Dogs.
Yeah, I've had some very long-lived cats. I've had an old English Mastiff named Daisy. She only made it to 9. I left her with my
the Mastiff
ex.
is a large dog. It's surprising it lived that long.
She was 150 pounds, and she was a small one. I have met one that was 250 pounds named Boeing.
That's an appropriate name.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And by the way, in the book, you see Brother Finn. Brother Finn is a Havarian monk, and they come with a companion, which they also have.
Is that supposed to be him on the cover, by the way?
Yes, wondering. That's Brother Finn. That's Brother Finn. He's a Havarian monk, and they are dedicated to the preservation of life and knowledge. All right, down you go. Thank you for coming up for the cuddles. Thank you for the claw holes in my arm.
And shirt and soul a little bit.
Well, petting him, holding him is like getting either a very slow tattoo or very fast acupuncture. Because it's happy feet.
Oh, for sure. So but, I had a question real quick.
Yeah.
What helped you decide the way you wanted to present and create? Like, what are the big differences in your mind in the way that you create and put together your sci-fi series versus your fantasy series? Because they're very different, very, very different, and both well done for what they're going for. In my opinion.
How far have you read so far into that into a Kinawazi saga, or was that it?
A couple of chapters, and then I kind of skipped around a little bit to see if there's. Okay. I'm not read. I knew I didn't have time to read it in full, but yeah.
No. I don't mind. I don't need to. I'm not trying to bust your chops or anything like that. I just sort of want to know what kind of a feel for it.
One second. This is important. Kahuna. My next book features cultists with robes and hoods. It's really
your voice isn't high enough for him.
Kahuna.
You have to get your falsetto.
Kahuna. So what you can do is
Oh, dude, I'm excited for Herman's book too. By the way, he's fantastic, man. I'm very excited for his next one.
Yeah, I can't remember if he's going to be at one of the cons I'm going to be at, but that'd be kind of fun.
You guys would get along. You should hang out.
Oh, we get along somewhat. We're both feisty and curmudgeonly, with a small sense of humor.
It's like, how old can you, how advanced in age can you become and still be called feisty? When does it turn into something else? That's what I'm curious about.
It's all on how many people are going to believe you.
Oh, there you go. Go.
Curmudgeonly and feisty is in the eyes of the beholder.
So you asked the
question?
First, which one did you start first?
That one. That's my first book. I started writing it in 2016. After that, technically the development for that started in 2003. It came literally out of a D&D game when I was allowed to play in a group of guys from, and they were trying to do Christian Dungeons and Dragons, but they had all this allegorical stuff. And I said, well, I can't get behind any of the gods. So can I come in from a different world? And he's like, yeah, not a problem. I said, you got monks? And he said, no, but stuff walks in from the mists all the time. So I made Brother Rymar. Brother Rymar of the Havarian Order is what I called it back then. And he walked out of the mist with his Havarian Mastiff, a 200-pound steel gray Mastiff.
I love a dog in a good book. Honestly, a big dog for a big task. It's great.
Well, consider this is Bergamot. You can see her right there.
Oh yeah.
And you can see they mostly employ them for life saving and for pack work. They are basically one part pack animals. Yeah, just like the natives used to use.
Yeah, there was a dog I saw recently, very similarly sized to the big one you described, the Boeing. This dog, they confirmed it. He was never less than 275 pounds.
I believe it.
And I'm not afraid of dogs. I've been attacked by dogs. I've gotten in fights with dogs. This dog made me stop for a second.
Yep. But so yeah, exactly. But hopefully they're cuddly. And would rather pet you with their tongue than with their teeth.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. I don't pet teeth. But how you kind of asked sort of what the differences between Dream Nebula and Akinawazi Saga is. I went into Akinawazi Saga with a lot more of a purpose and dealing with some philosophical questions that I had. And they come from very goofy sources. Originally, the story was supposed to follow Rymar, but Brother Finn has asserted his place because Rymar needs, by the end of this book, he needs some time to mature. And I was not going to write a Harry Potter knockoff.
Yeah.
When he's stuck, because the first story is I jokingly call worst trip to school ever, and because Brother Finn is escorting children on his way out into exile, he is given one last task to escort these children to an academy for the Kirche, or church. That that is K. That's how that word is pronounced for church. The K, I can't even picture it in my head. But anyway, it looks like Kirche. That is actually it's pronounced Kirche. And I got that from a friend of mine who is Norwegian who helps me on pronunciation.
Good.
So,
I next time I'm going to pick the sci-fi book to read. I can do it.
I warned you. I
knew it would be hard. I've read part of it before, but it's still.
This is why I don't have audiobooks of it yet.
You're going to need someone from that part of the world. That's kind of just.
Yes, I do. Somebody that can handle the poly words so much better because most can't. I don't know what it is. If I broke them up, people would have less problems. I know it. Excuse me. But I went in also with some basic philosophical questions and then thought experiments. The first one, believe it or not, because I said, well, if I'm going to write fantasy, I want to write something that has stuff in it I like. It's my world. I get to do it. And so I said, I want steam trains and I want steamboats. So
technology is advanced somewhat more than you would be led to believe, maybe even by the cover.
Right. Exactly. There are, and that was one thing. One review gave me is that it was a bit shocking to all of a sudden have steam trains and steamboats show up when there was really no idea that was coming. It's very limited in that it's sort of 1830s, 1840s style.
It's not widespread, but it does exist, kind of thing, right?
Well, it exists on the lakes. Steamboats exist a lot more. You got picture if you will, paddle wheeled, steam powered Viking longboats.
I can't say that. I can't say the joke I was about to say, but yes, I can picture it.
Yes, it is one really messed up combination, and that is a major set piece throughout the first thing. But so that was first number one because I had a situation where I played Civilization a long time ago of where I actually discovered in Civilization 1, I discovered the railroad without discovering gunpowder.
Oh.
Yeah. I kind of broke that bad boy. And I said, you know what? I wonder what a civilization would look like if it did have steam power without any gunpowder. And so that was sort of percolating in the back of my brain. And then I had other things. I said, I want to, and the reason I don't read much fantasy is because I can't read much fantasy. I unfortunately was one of those idiots that got involved in the occult when I was young, when I had my faith broken.
Oh.
And so I can't go around 80% of all fantasy out there because it all has pagan leanings and pagan roots, and I'm sensitive to that kind of stuff.
It's a valid reason, a very important reason for you. But it like in my heart of hearts, it's a shame.
Yeah,
there's a lot of really good fantasy out there, man.
I had somebody recommend a whole series of books today, and I'm like, oh, this looks really kind of cool, and there's all this. Yeah, and I had to say, okay, this looks really cool, but I can't do it.
No Michael Moorcock for you. Nope, definitely not that. Yep, it's like a cult. The entire story is a cult. That's the whole kind of the point, actually.
I can't read a lot of Piers Anthony science fiction or fantasy that I used to like. I mean, I used to read that all the time when I was younger, but I can't touch it now. So I said I have to be able to write a fantasy that won't go against my faith. And that had me stuck. Like I said, I started thinking about this book in 2003. I tried making it an RPG. I tried making it a comic book script. I was trying to find every way to not do a novel because
you have a history with comics as well. That might be worth. Yeah.
I started paying attention to comics probably in 1982, and I got hooked on the X-Men. I am an Exophile. I always have been. I didn't start collecting heavy until about 84, 80, no. Yeah, I was in junior high, so about 80, 85, 86, somewhere in that range. And I collected until 94 when I got so fed up with what Marvel was doing and how Image had warped the entire industry. I just was like, I can't read this crap anymore.
I picked up a weird single issue, like just a random one the other day, and it was like a leopard woman, like the most horny book I've ever seen, like in a short issue comic. I'm like, you did not have, like, every single drawing. I'm like, I see what you're doing here, but it's like, I'm like, what was going on at Marvel at the time, man? Like, this is not a kid's book, obviously.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
I've seen things you wouldn't believe.
No, I was directly quoting Rutger Hauer there. I know that speech very well. One of the best soliloquies of movies in modern history. It's amazing, and it was written only 45 minutes before the shooting was done. Anyway, enough Blade Runner nerddom there. But I wanted to have something, but with fantasy, of course, you want something magical and exploratory and mystical. But how do you do that if you're trying to keep literal Christianity in play and not devolve into paganism? And
that's a really tricky question, because I'm pondering it myself, because even the Bible implies that there are magics and such that are not all,
the supernatural exists. Unfortunately, my time in the occult taught that to me. I got involved after I became born again. I spent some time hanging around people involved with deliverance ministry. So, so I said, fine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the deliverance ministry and exorcism and all these things that deal with demons and angels, and I'm just going to crank the special effects to 11.
I've seen different versions of that same idea done in a couple.
Frank Peretti helped a lot with that. Frank Peretti helped a lot with understanding how could I represent that. This Present Darkness is absolutely a masterclass on that. Now, mind you, there are certain things about that book that I kind of go, okay, because it forgets at some point, it forgets that it's just entertainment and gets a little preachy. And that's one of my biggest, when
it's a hard line to walk.
It's a picket fence. Yeah. It's a picket fence to walk and or sit on. Too many times, if you forget that you're not here for, and I know that Herman can back me up on this one, is 100%. That if you forget for a moment that you're here to entertain, you slip into evangelism mode and you lose your audience. Even if they agree with you, there's a certain level of, okay, that's just stupid.
It's a series of, like, you don't go to a story for that. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth.
One of the best.
You go there for a story, and if it turns into a sermon, then it's not truly what it was meant or anticipated to be anymore.
I just wanted these things to be elements of the story that were true to these aspects of my faith, but I'm not going to sit there and preach at people and try and teach them a salvation lesson. That
Christ compels you.
That movie, I have some strong words about that movie.
I understand, and I probably agree, but it is maybe my favorite horror film as far as being horrifying.
Mine's The Shining.
That's a great.
I've watched it about 25 times, and it keeps getting funnier every time I see it. So I think I'm qualified.
If I'm in here and you hear this, I'm working.
If you don't hear this, I'm working. Yeah, I know that movie. Yeah,
that's very uncomfortable. Just unease. It's no movie oozes unease the same way that movie does.
No, I agree with why Stephen King didn't like it. I agree with
it's
why
way different than the book. It's not even close.
I agree with why Kubrick did it the way he did. And he created a masterpiece from a masterpiece. It's almost a transformer of horror awesome,
100%, yeah.
Yeah, here's Kahuna.
Here's Kahuna.
Yeah, exactly. If you really want to see a very whacked out music video, check out Muse's You Make Me Think That It's it feels like it's Halloween.
Oh,
because it's a mashup of so many horror movie and Stephen King tropes thrown into that video, and it's done so well. You're just, okay, where did the line kind of blur out here? Or like in Ready Player One, the date challenge. I haven't seen that movie. Why? I told you I get scared.
You know what, son? That's fair. That's fair. No.
Yes. But anyway, so that's why I kind of did it. I didn't know at the time of Christian fantasy being out there. It was shortly after that I learned about Realm Makers and the Christian spec fic community, and I went to their conference, and that's where me and Bambo met.
Oh, that's cool. That's really
we met at the Writers Conference. I met Terry Brooks at that as well, and Frank Peretti. Yeah.
Oh, so wow, you met everyone, man.
I believe. Yeah, my first class there was with Tosca Lee, and Carrie Neitz was my first mentor that I got to work with at that. So he's the guy that wrote Amish Vampires from Outer Space.
Can't say I've picked that one up yet.
Yeah, it was a joke that he suddenly became a bestseller. Absolutely wild. Yeah, and he's also done Amish werewolves in space and Amish zombies in space. Because why not?
What makes them Amish? Are they really good at making furniture?
I have no idea, Jedediah.
Oh, bro, yeah. That's funny.
But I got a lot of good experiences out of that, other than just meeting my wife. We lost touch then for almost 2 years.
That's how it goes sometimes, man.
Yeah, and then we met again online, and 5 months after we met again online, we got married, and I got whisked away to West Virginia.
Honestly, the short engagement, that's how it should be, I think. Honestly.
Sometimes.
Yeah. For most people, I think it should be.
No.
But the world's broken and so are people, so things happen.
Yeah. Yeah, been there, done that, have the t-shirt and the commemorative mug.
You and I have actually talked about that a little bit at some point, but we don't need to get into that.
We won't bore anybody with that. I'm still trying to answer the question and failing mightily.
Well, I'll get us back on track. So that's kind of how we got. That's kind of how you got onto creating a Kiniwazi Saga. The story's been in you a long time, and it was the book I needed when I was 20. It seriously is. Yeah. And I've had people that have had lives where they were really struggling with the supernatural, and they're like, I wish I would have had this 10 years ago. I wish I would have known these things, because like I said, I based it off of stuff. I went and researched actual deliverance ministry and all these things in spiritual warfare, and I tried to basically put it in there as the magic system. I hate the phrase magic system nowadays because it's just gamifying because of what it means.
That should be it. Yes, exactly.
Like anything can work if it's done really well. But the problem is you have one person, one or two people, like maybe 3 people who do it well, and then you have 50 who don't do it well. They just do it.
Sturgeon's Law. Yep, Sturgeon's Law. And too many people are demanding to know the details. It's not science. It's magic. You're not supposed to know it. If it's repeatable, easy, and safe, it's not magic. It's science.
Guys, you gotta get excited about science.
Well, then we go into the pulp punk manifestation of Dream Nebula, where I'm actually trying to take segue. Anyway, so to segue into that, I tried to take the hard science fiction approach to Flash Gordon and try to figure out how that works.
You kind of in some ways you took kind of the opposite standard approach to each kind of grouping of fiction in some ways, depending on what era you're in, obviously, but yeah.
Because I have the brain of damage.
We share brain cells. Yes.
Yes, only once, then they die. It's not that I'm brain dead, it's just that I'm not.
Speaking of the Dream Nebula, I figured we'd have a little bit of that in the background. It's not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's a nice song. Why not, man? It's good. Very angelic.
Oh yeah, which one did you put in? The Dreams Within Dreams?
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
That is based literally off of the first chapter of Dreams Within Dreams.
See, like that's a tricky thing because I read the third one. I need to go back and read the other two now.
Yep.
Oh.
A lot of what you see with Winston at the time is him still processing out. When you meet Winston in the first book, he is effectively suffering from PTSD and from survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
And he's not doing a good job of it, and that's why he gets kind of into the straits he's in. So yeah, that's sort of the core of his character, is, at least for the first 3 novels, is dealing with the trauma, learning that he cannot hide anymore from what's hurt him, and he has to deal with it. And so by the time you get to the third book, when you meet him, you're actually meeting him a lot farther into his journey. And
things have, I do get the impression things have changed, not insubstantially.
Yes, exactly. He's suffered a lot of psychic trauma that you get kind of explained to from the front for the first part of the book there. The first couple chapters kind of deals with that. And then
actually,
of course
it kind of deals with it in 2 spots in the book, because like a little bit in the beginning there, and then the kind of the confrontation towards the latter half. Spoilers.
Yeah, that's it. Spoilers, sweetie. I cannot do a very good Alex Kingston impersonation, but I think that's probably to my benefit.
Don't try, son. Don't try.
Yeah, I do have a picture of me at Realmmakers at the awards ceremony with one of my friends, author Laura Van Arendonk Bow, and she used to do cosplay at cons, and she was dressed as River Song in that. So, she pulled it off. They have the similar hair.
Cool, dude.
Oh, she's an absolute sweetheart. She does fantasy, lots of fantasy, Christian fantasy too, and she also does a lot of Japanese tale stuff.
Oh, I'm Hawaiian. We have that's in my DNA, man. It's all there.
Almost literally.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like they talk about where the Hawaiians came from. I'm like, kind of like there's some relation way back when, we don't really know.
Hey, I'm just a howley here, man.
I got my buddy a shirt when I came back when I was a teenager. It said howley. He's like, it was a really nice shirt. He's like, oh, that's cool. What does it mean? I'm like, technically it means visitor.
Howley?
Oh yeah, that's what it means. That's what it.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I did not know that. I always wondered what that meant.
And then he looked at me. He's like, "What does it really mean?" I'm like, "White boy."
Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought I got. Yeah, if you hear them saying Howley, they're talking about you.
Well, the thing is, I don't look very Hawaiian, and I'm not that Hawaiian. So like, they see me. And until they hear me start talking to them, in the I could speak a little pidgin. It's like, oh, all right, oi, kaziku. Hey, brother, what you doing? Oh, I'm gonna go how? Oh, Izzy out there? Yeah, it's great, man. It's like you take a little bit of Chinese, a little bit of Japanese, a tiny bit of Portuguese, broken English, and that's Hawaiian pidgin. It's a mess, dude. It's awful.
Yeah, I don't have that. I only speak Yooper, there, hey.
Eh?
Oh, yeah, way up north.
You live up north there, eh?
Yeah, I'm a cheesehead, Yeah, I'm a southern Yooper, there, hey. Oh, yeah, when I watched the movie Fargo, everybody's like, oh, that's so awesome. I said, yeah, but that's Scandinavian. That's the Minnesotan version of Yooper. And Yoopers don't ever end. Yoopers won't end every sentence with a. They'll end it with either a or well, yeah, there, hey.
Go down to the store,
Go down to the store once quick for me. That's a real expression from up there. Go down to the store once quick for me.
I heard something very different there for a second. I was like, that's a little spicy for stream.
No. That go down to the store once for me. Quick.
I got it the second time, and not the first time.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is us talking about his sci-fi series, ladies and gentlemen.
Ta-da! We're all over the place. But yeah,
so you took two very different approaches, and you were like Akiniwazi Saga was really on your heart. It was a story that'd been there for a long time.
Yep.
And so, what really prompted you? What made you want to tell the story of the Dream Nebula and the people who reside within it?
I am my first love of reading is sci-fi. It really is. Fantasy kind of shoved its way in. Yeah, whoa, yeah. What you
What
think
do you
about
think
that?
about that?
I think the Packers kind of sucked the Moose's butt there in that last game. That's what I think. Them darn 49ers. They played like a bunch of
dirty
old women.
football players. Oh wait, whoa! I went like Irish there. Never mind. Hey, them dirty football players! Get them off the field.
Well, suddenly a wild otter appears.
A wild, questionably sexual. No, never mind. An otter appears.
Now. Yes,
and this is exactly how he says it. Hail, friends! Hey, hey, otter, love you, man. Thanks for coming. Immediately leaves.
Yeah. Oh, I'm out of here. He's weirding out on me again. But yeah, I wanted science fiction's always been my first love, and I came up with the idea because I'm sitting there folding laundry one day, and I said, I miss, and I'm watching the 1980 Flash Gordon film, and I said, I miss Ming the Merciless. Max von Sydow was just such a blast to watch on the screen. I said, somebody needs to write another Ming the Merciless. You know, we need a new Flash Gordon. I said, well, I'm a somebody. I don't know if anybody's been writing something like this, so why don't I write it? And so that's what I did. I sort of started with the villain and worked my way to the hero because
it's definitely like how, like, was it you had the villain in mind and you're like, so how can I, what kind of hero can I create to confront this villain? Exactly.
And I didn't want to really, okay. One of the things that always, it's not really an irritation. It was more of an observation I noticed about a lot of science fiction, especially pulp science fiction, is they tend to not deal with common people. They sort of, you see the pinnacle of everything. Like, okay, Flash Gordon is the classic example. Who do you see that isn't practically nobility half the time, or some special warrior or things like that? You only see the very upper crust of the society. You don't see much in the way of the regular everyday people. But having a background in logistics, I'm like, well, how do you make the machinery of civilization work then? And since I have that background, and I said, well, why don't I just take from what I know? If I want to have these kind of moons of Mongo and do them hard science, how do I make them work? So I have all this fantastic machinery, and I have all these fantastic things that I want to be there in the society. How do I support that? And I had to start building in my head at least the rough idea of how the support network would be there. So
it's always interesting where different people start. It's like you have the spark or the combination of ideas that gets the ball rolling. You're like, oh yeah, and then it just you build everything around that thing. Right. And for you started with a villain and you just kept building from there. And it was What's funny is that with the Ming the Merciless, I sat there once I had sort of, I want to do a variation of him. So how do I make him something more? I didn't want to just take from and copy Ming the Merciless just straight up. I said, well, how do I make him something unique? And I had an idea hit me, and this is, I can't tell anybody this one. I've told 4 people the actual nature of my Zhao the Eternal, the all-seeing eye. And out of the 4 people, I told one at was a editor mentor meeting, and I told her the nature of what the reveal was for Zhao the Eternal, and she literally had to stop herself from falling out of her chair. She was knocked back by the shock of it all. Jeez. It was that big of a shocker because she's never heard this before. And I'm like, I never really thought of it either until all of a sudden it just hit me. And I had to sit down when I first realized this is how I want to handle the character. And it suddenly just became sometimes you have an element of the story that just it's not even you. It just you're the boom. It comes from you, but it's not you. You know what I'm saying? Yes, exactly. You're like the vessel. I'm the conduit. And that's what happened with Zhao. And from there, the Dream Nebula suddenly solidified in a hard science way off of an understanding who Zhao the Eternal was. And then I understood how, because the whole idea, first off, I wanted another Ming the Merciless, but I asked the question, what would happen
if Ming the Merciless had won and conquered Earth? What would that look like? And so that's what I started doing and putting together just from that little conversation on the Voltan City with Flash, where Flash turns down Ming, and he sort of tells them they will be satisfied with less and all these things. And I started going, okay, so what would it look like and how would they get there? And you've read the prologue to that where I put that in, and I'm very glad I did, to kind of explain a little bit of the backstory.
It's such a different idea. You need a little, you need a what do you call it? A primer. That's the word.
Yeah. I had a friend. Nothing. He's a very good friend, and he tells me that he believes that there's a very high bar to entry in regards to getting into Dream Nebula because it is so darn different.
Continue. I do have thoughts, but continue.
He's like, he points out that there isn't a lot of, so the idea, going back to the 1930s, nobody's really reads much of the 1930s when they didn't have the idea of the vacuum. Space travel was just air was everywhere. They didn't know that. And I said, well, how do I hard science that up? And that's how I came up with the Dream Nebula. Again, spoilers I can't reveal at this time because that was
a fantastic idea. It makes it so that you don't have, things don't all have to have a hard answer or the answer isn't as wholly necessary as in a series that's a little bit more in reality, like based on ordinary reality. You understand a little bit?
Yeah, I kind of understand what you're getting at. But at the same time, this is actually a very hard science way that is pretty much grounded in our physics. I mean, yes, I go beyond what I have nanotech, and I even go so far as femtotech, where you can actually construct atoms. But humans don't have that technology. Zao does, but humans don't. I'll give that little spoiler.
Also, our robot friend, he has nanite kind of, like a type of technology, but the way you handled it was so much better, because I hate in a sci-fi series when they have the nanites or the little creation bots, and they can do anything, and they're invincible. I'm like, that's not how that would work. They're not invulnerable. They're not flawless. There's no. Yeah, I really appreciated how that was handled. It's like, half of them are gone. Crap.
Yeah, exactly. But he can go refill them because they're a very common part. The nanosand that he has is okay. I finally realized that the best way to have people visualize how Billy Joe moves around, think of him sort of like a good old boy, except his lower half is a big pile of sand similar to a samurai's kimono, okay? And his arms are made of the same stuff, so he has these really big Popeye-looking arms that look like they're made out of coal dust. And same with his lower half. But if you want to understand how he moves, look at the microbots from Big Hero 6.
Yeah, that's the one that got that's what got me. When you were first
they move like that, but there's a size of sand. I developed this idea for a shared universe. So technically, it's called the Cascade Drive, where basically the vehicle, or in this case the robot, surfs on top of a pile of these
the nanosand.
Yeah, of the nanosand.
So it kind of flows like water and reaches out a little bit. Yeah, it's
very, we can make lattices. We can make lattices out of it to increase his height, and yes, exactly. So that's a very rough picture of it. But yeah, his arms are made out of the nanosand, and then of course the bottom half, he surfs on this basically controlled pile that he moves like a standing wave. So he surfs everywhere on his own private wave. But he can also manipulate the arms because he's an industrial, an Indu, as he is sometimes classified as, industrial mechoid. One little thing in Flash Gordon, you have metal men, you have lion men, you have snake men. It's all men. I said no. I'm going
all androgynous in some way.
Yeah, I'm using oid. Oid for people, or oid for species that are blended into humanity. I forgot I sent you some of those pictures.
You sent me a whole ton for when I did that little promotional video.
Yeah, because I didn't know what you needed, so I just fired off a bunch of things that could work for the images.
You had a lot of really good skyscapes, specifically for your universe, actually. Just because the ideas on display. It really worked for that.
It's the forever sky. That's the whole point. In Flash Gordon, you see them. You notice nobody there wears breathing apparatus. It's all fully pressurized at sea level air everywhere. And so I said, this is the hard science I had to figure out. And when I did, that's when I went for it. And so that's why everything is there. You can't travel above Mach 25 because that is reentry speed, and pretty much anything you do,
the atmosphere will do what atmosphere does.
Yeah, it'll heat you and boil you away. Yeah. So everybody's limited to jet speeds, essentially. You can go, let's see, there's Mach, there's Hyper Mach, and then there's Ultra Mach, and I think Mega Mach is the top end. And that's
I know they sound made up though.
It's not. That's the weird
I know it's real. It's just
something like that.
I like how like some things like in science and numbers and such are like, oh, we're going to be very scientific about this one. It's like, what about Super Mach or Ultra Mach or Mega Mach?
Yeah, exactly. Those are all real classifications. I mean, we've heard of hypersonic missiles, right? Then you have ultrasonic missiles, and then you have megasonic missiles. So that's how they delineate certain levels of speed. Apparently, it blew my mind. But when I realized that everything is now, and you don't have the ability to go faster than light because the atmosphere will tear you to pieces. So everything's an airship. Everything's an airship. You have a pressure hull purely to keep out anything that might be poisonous floating out there, because it's not all breathable atmosphere. You'll hit methane pockets. You'll hit dust storms, and I mean that there's all sorts of different atmospheric effects. You have entire storms in the dream beyond just the black void events. You have vortices that can form.
Kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that would be a floating city somewhere.
Yeah, I got
there's a mountain range behind it.
I got Bespin in a storm kind of vibes from this.
Yeah. Well, that sort of is where some of the visuals came from in my mind. Bespin would have been something that would be right at home.
Oh, it was such a great design for Star Wars, and it worked so well too.
In a gas giant.
Yeah, it was a cool idea. I'm like, in a place where fuel is basically infinite, this is possible in theory.
Yep. And I use nuclear reactors. I use both fission and fusion. And one thing I definitely do is with the weaponry, energy weapons, I do not use lasers. I've eliminated that term because that is not very pulpy. So I use rays and beams. So if it's an infrared laser, it's an I beam or an I ray, or a ultraviolet laser, it's a U beam kind of thing. So, and
plus you kind of wanted to, you do want to differentiate it from Flash Gordon a little bit more though.
Oh, absolutely. You have, if you have somebody that's if you have something that a person that has been genetically modified, they're an oid. So you'd have like a felinoid would be a cat person, somebody that started with human descent and was merged into feline. But if they were
don't ask how we did it.
Yeah, the miracles of pill level genetic engineering is the way that goes. If they're an uplifted animal, they're a morph. So you have a felomorph or a canomorph
so there is a difference. Okay.
And they both hate each other, generally speaking.
Of course they do.
Of course they do.
You're like me, but different.
Yeah, you smell funny.
Humans would never do that, right?
No,
surely
no.
Not in the history of man. Not once.
Never.
Nada.
Absolutely not. I mean, I have a whole gaming section. I have a few RPG setups for playing this with GURPS, and I did it last year at a couple of cons, and very well received. But I put it in an area that, with the help of Bambo, we developed the Chimera Belt, which is sort of like the largest concentration of morphs in human space of the dream, because nobody knows how big of an area. Yeah, that's exactly it. Animation Catman versus a man cat.
It's like, oh no, it's the Catmen, not the man, not those dirty man cats.
But certain morphs do not get along with humans at all. Others do great with humans. It just all depends on what you get. I mean, one of the games that we started to run, but it wasn't able to continue. We literally created Boss Hog, who was a servomorph. So a giant pig-looking boss hog, because that's what he was, an uplifted boar.
You know, your average Southern Walmart attendee, anyway.
Yeah, but he'd be on one of those little carts.
Or it's like a Wolverine. Like I used to do this to my kids and my wife. It's like a Wolverine. You want the animal?
Well, here's the fun part. One of the things that I do plan to use coming up is what I am jokingly called the Goldfinch Mafia, and the idea came from the fact that when winter around here, Bridget goes out and she feeds the birds, and we get overrun with goldfinches, and we started just calling them the Goldfinch Mafia. And then one day she's like, "Hey, I wonder what those would be like in the dream." And I'm like, "Oh God." So
like
the Goldfinch Mafia is coming.
An idea was born.
Yes, the Goldfinch Mafia is coming.
That does bring something up that's rather important. I don't have my full impression of Akiniwazi Saga yet, though I do really enjoy it, and its prose is fantastic. I have read a portion of the Dream Nebula, and what I can say about that is it's very, very funny. Funnier than it has any right to be. And it's so short, it's so punchy and fast and fun. And the action still feels impactful, which is something that you kind of like when you get to a certain level of, I hate, like, no disrespect, silliness. Like, you don't expect certain things to still work story-wise. And I feel like in the portion that I've read, the third book, that it really, really did.
Well, thank you. I had the excuse me. I had a lot of fun. Animation overload. The real question. That's the anime guy asking. I haven't done it yet. I haven't done it yet. I will not rule it out, but I am not going to focus on it. How about we call it that? We will see about a catfish deer cow. That's just scary on a fundamental level.
Anyway, guys, we have wait, where to go? Never mind. It's not here yet.
I didn't do it. You can't prove it. I want my lawyer.
Where to go? Come back here, darn it. Let's see. All I'm saying is that we need to focus. All right, guys, just focus. Keep going. Like let's stay on track.
Yes, focus. What? Yeah. I feel like a deer in the headlights.
Plead the fifth.
Anyway, yes, Holly. The back and forth between Holly and Mother and Winston and Holly, and is just
she was everything that I wanted out of that character, and I had a pretty high expectation.
I sold her pretty hard, didn't I? Bad choice of term, but yes.
Also, Otter's bringing up a good point. Yes, I'm focusing on the plot, the gravity-defying, tremendous, full-body plot.
Yes, I did her deliberately to piss off a whole group of people that are whining too much about beautiful women.
Oh, but surely no one would be upset by a woman who uses her sensuality to gain the upper hand in a situation. Surely not.
I don't describe her as a fetish femme fatale gun bunny for no reason. But I do love the fact I will admit that in a lot of cases, the characters kind of took off on their own when it came to some of that comedy dialogue, especially between Mother and Holly.
For sure.
The deliberate mispronunciation of her name to Dolly.
Screw it. Phrasing.
Yeah. Interesting choice of words there, animation.
and we've talked about your books a little bit here. I figured we could also dive into the other subject that I suggested we talk about. And let me pull that up so I can get the phrasing right. Let's see. Obviously, plot.
Yes.
Plot is what's important here.
Yes.
Where did we go? We're all the way over here. Yes.
I know I'm not answering questions.
How we achieve tone in a story, and how it changes based on both like the passage of time by the creator and the observer. Because the way, like, if enough people get their eyes on something and there are enough opinions kind of form a cloud around a given story or franchise, it can definitely alter the way that people feel about it and perceive it, and even how they interpret the tone. how did it like so first, how did you go about achieving the tone that you had got in the Dream Nebula? Because that's that you achieved a very specific, familiar yet unique tone, and it was nice.
The short answer is I'm not quite sure how the hell I did it. The long answer is more a case of they have each story and its fundamental ideas sort of generates an immediate tone. For instance, going into a Kinawazi saga, it's a lot more serious tone because I'm dealing with, at least fundamentally, a lot more serious subjects.
Well, even in that like page and a half, 2 pages I read earlier, it was you're already dealing like with taking care of the property and family dynamics and bad family dynamics and like how those relationships some function and sometimes how they don't, and that's just in 2 pages, which is very serious in a very short period of time.
And you and in 2 to 3 more pages, the whole those worries and troubles absolutely get dumped on their head, but they're still present. And that whole first chapter was written purely because I had a beta reader tell me he didn't care about the characters. He didn't care about them because they had nothing to ground them.
You need to know who people. It like the worst thing could happen to a character, but if you don't know them, if you don't have any connection, it doesn't matter.
Yep. I mean, technically, the original start of the book was what is now the 3rd or 4th chapter, and that was the original start of the book, and I had to put things together to basically paint the picture of, I had to paint in who Brother Finn was, I had to paint in who Rymar was, and why you should even care about Rymar. Why is it that you should be rooting for this little kid?
Well, already he's the underdog in his own family a little bit. His father is expecting a lot of him, maybe because he's already done this twice. He has some personal kind of things he's trying to work through. His mother is trying to take care of him, but it may not. It's creating some tension within the family, and then that feels like it falls on him. And he's already an underdog, so there's that. We automatically want to root for that guy.
Yes, and even the cat gives him lip. Torvald Skrote. Skrote. It mean, yeah. Actually, that
anyway, Carvel Scrotum, right? That's his name.
Skrote. It actually means corpse. So it's basically it's Torvald's corpse is the name of the cat.
Torvald's corpse. Also, Otter has some wisdom to share as well. I have so many reasons to like Holly. 2, actually. But
those are the main reasons. But yes, remember that she in the first novel.
She's actually a good character, guys. Don't get distracted by all the assets.
Well, okay, so like I said, I developed that character for a couple of reasons. One, I needed a femme fatale, so I wanted that put in there. But also, you see in a lot of pulp and noir, the damsel in distress or the femme fatale who's they're not very active, but they're manipulative. And I said, I want something that's going to be a bit different. And so,
also, I will bring up Otter did read this.
Yes, he did. He read the 3rd book. Yes, he has not read the first one. But yeah, she also features in the freebie short story too. That is still available for people who sign up for my newsletter. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
Yes.
Winky, winky. Wait, what?
Yeah, but I created her to basically fly in the face of all these people saying that you can't have beautiful women like that. It's demeaning to women. And it's like I've yet to meet a woman that has had a problem. The only people that have had a problem with her so far are a lot of male allies.
It's like a male feminist. You can't trust those people.
Yeah, well, that's the people that have given me the most problem about it. But the thing is, she created her own look for her purpose.
It's part of her power a little bit. Like she's very capable, but she has limitations, and so when all else fails, she has something she can kind of fall back on as a first or last resort.
Yeah, people tend to hesitate to shoot something pretty. And so she uses that split second to keep herself alive.
That's why I never went to war. Anyway.
Sorry, still dealing with the bronchitis.
Sorry.
Yes, Canadian.
It's all right, man. And hey, if at some point you feel like you
No, I'm
aren't
good.
able, I know, but I want to give you the out publicly.
Oh,
so
all
you're
right.
not like, okay, guys,
I'll
I
keep
can't do it.
I took Dayquil before I came on, and I got cough drops.
That's what heroes.
I actually spend an entire chapter going over her appearance with between Winston in a great argument. It's a lot. Thank you very much, animation. Because I felt it was important for people to understand that she's not a victim. She's not a victim here, and this is all deliberate. Her appearance is chosen for a purpose and for her job. And you don't really know what her job is, though it smacks of 007 level stuff.
She's an effective tool with effective tools.
Yes, exactly. I wanted her competent and beautiful, and one part because it fits the story, and one part because it pisses off a certain part of the populace that
all the
I'm
things
sick
that
of.
Feminists hate.
Yeah, and yet she's a fully, and that she is a she. I try to make her as rounded of a character. Bad choice of words not intended, but yeah, I mean. Yeah, exactly. RH Snow
says, I think all of us try to make our own look. Some of us are just not as good at it as others.
Oh, you're a cutie patootie. Just deal with it, RH.
Queen of the Iron Age. Me, I can't for the life. My face is not symmetrical, so it doesn't help, but I can't get my facial hair straight. I've given up.
Well, you do it better than me, man. Though, then again, I have a beard that has one half that I could do a great French fork if I could keep one from not trying to twist out sideways.
Yep. See.
I'm just weird that way. So, but I hate to shave because I have those fine whiskers that curl under and
yeah. But
so fluffy face.
That brings something else too, because that like the question we've related to your own books, but what about other stories? Like for me, I have a certain perception of Star Wars, and I've kind of reverted back to my old perception, and that is because I had a way that I used to view it, and as the newer stuff kept on coming out. My perception started to change. And at some point I realized both what's being created and the people who are enjoying it I'm letting that change my feeling and perception of something that I love in a very negative way. And so for me, I personally chose to kind of like step back, not absorb anything new at some point, and just love it for what it has been to me already.
Last Jedi broke me in regards to Star Wars. I'd never been one to get into the extended universe anyway. I mean, if it wasn't in the first three movies...
I read 36 books growing up. I read all the books, and I loved them. Anyway, continue.
I know, some people did. Okay, I take that back. There was one series of books, Han Solo, 3 adventures. There was Han Solo at Star's End, or I think that's what it was. Yeah, Han Solo at Star's End. I'm blanking on the other 2, but there are 3 Han Solo books I read. Otherwise, I didn't read any of the Star Wars books. I didn't get into those so much. I wanted to see it on the screen. So for the longest time, it was the base 3 movies, and that was it. And then they did the re-release, and needless to say, I was so apathetic at the time, I never went to go see the re-release with all the new footage. I didn't see them in the theaters.
There's only one edit that I think was actually worthwhile. Only one.
I liked a lot of the added materials to the first one. I mean, I own the relaunch of them, but I get pissed. I still have the original VHSs.
We used to. My grandparents still do. Yep.
Where Han shoots first.
Obviously. Like, there's one edit I like better when that is when they put Ian McDermott as the Emperor in the episode 5. Because they had like that random weird, like almost doll in the original one, and it didn't fit. I'm glad that's the only edit where I'm like, that makes sense. I like it.
Yep. Generally speaking, I didn't mind the special effects updates, especially with like Bespin. I thought they did a really good job with that. I liked how they fleshed out Mos Eisley. I didn't mind the re-edition of the Jabba the Hutt scene at the Millennium Falcon, but the one that made me hurt.
Terrible though.
I know, but that was the era's CGI capabilities. but technically that also is because when it downscales, it doesn't look as good. I mean, you look at older movies, they get downscaled to 720, let alone 480. They special effects just die on the vine. But I begrudgingly accept the first three movies, the prequels, and I will accept Rogue One because it had the balls to do the right thing.
It did, and it's not like a normal Star Wars movie, and that's fine. I like it despite that, and it did the thing you're supposed to do when you tell a story about what came before. When you tell a story of what came before, it should strengthen the narrative of the original stories, not weaken them. And they only did that with Rogue One. Everything else out the window. It doesn't matter.
Yep. I don't know what the OT is. So
original trilogy.
Oh yeah, that is pretty much all I stick to. But I will accept, for the sake of argument, I will accept the Rogue One as episode 4.5 or 3.5. But like I said, Force Awakens, I was fine until they killed Han Solo. I thought it was poorly put together the entire way along, and I felt like I was just hearing echoes of all the other movies packed together, and it got and then Last Jedi I went to see with a friend. And
it is my most hated film of all time.
And I walked out of that movie. I didn't mind it, but it bothered me. And I couldn't lay my feelings. I couldn't figure out my feelings. And then I started seeing the critiques from other people. I'm like, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey.
So like you knew you felt something was wrong, but it took someone else articulating it before you really kind of understood.
The spectacle still had me. The spectacle of it all, because visually, it is an incredible film. I will give that.
It's a beautiful looking film. I can say that wholeheartedly.
Oh, that is a beautiful disaster. But then you start picking at it, and you start listening and feeling the craft to the story, and you get more and more angry at the disrespect. And the disrespect started when they took out Han Solo like a deadbeat dad.
Yeah, and it started there. I'll admit the death worked for me in the movie. I thought it was a great scene. I don't like what it represented, and it definitely didn't lead to anything good after that.
You're going to have to pardon my French, but at that was the point of where I realized that Disney and the people that they had in charge were taking a shit on everyone who loved the original.
Yeah, and what they did in The Last Jedi, I've never watched a movie and been like, I hate the creator.
Yeah, well, I won't watch I will not watch a Rian Johnson film. Period.
Nope,
because of that.
I did on accident once, and I haven't again since.
It breaks my heart because I'm a huge Walt Disney World fan. I love the case in point, the shirt. This is the Haunted Mansion pattern for their wallpaper.
Absolutely.
Okay,
it's a great
Bambo
shirt.
got it for me. My Bambo got it for me, and I absolutely love it. And that is my all-time favorite ride over at Disney World. I've been fortunate to go 5 times before it wokeified. I'm sure Magic Channel loved to hear that. But it breaks my heart to see what's become of that company. And I will not, I'm not supporting it until they have had a cranium rectumectomy, you know? What do you call that?
Lobotomy?
Cranial removal from the rectum. Their heads up their ass. And
okay, no, I figured it out. It took me a second. At first, I'm
there's
there's
a funny medical term that actually goes with that.
Or it's like a Hancock. If you don't get over there right now, your head's going up his. And then Jason Bateman comes in. I love that. I hate that movie. I love that scene. Did you really stick a man's head up another man's feet? Yeah. Like all ashamed, like a kid.
All things are possible with enough force. It's sort of like my old saying, there's no problem that cannot be solved with the proper application of high explosives.
Oh, jeez.
And I've played in RPGs enough combat engineers to live by that.
Yeah.
My fight, I have had many a game where I have gone, we may have to blast. And channeling my inner Doc Brown.
Well, the Lord Otter, he knows. In two or three of the games he's run for us in his Savage Worlds Dark Augment, kind of campaign we've been doing,
Mhm.
we've just blown up everything. We set off a nuke in one of them.
You're gamers, man. Duh.
He's like, I didn't expect. It's like we in one of them, not the last one, but the one before that, we skipped the final boss, and then we nuked like that area of the planet.
Cranial rectal removal. That's it. Yep.
Yep. That's
yeah.
it.
Oh God, yeah. I've had more than my fair share of games that have left the GMs twitching on the floor for my insanity. I will give you my number one. I used to play Shadowrun back in the day.
Oh yeah,
and I played a coyote shaman, and she was a fashion designer. So everything she did, I took the rules and I made fashion-based skills. And her two real spells and her two real offensive powers were turn to goo physical, turn to goo mana. So I could either get them either with mana or I'd get them with physical. And we got up to the big bad, and I think he was some sort of really super powerful vampire mage. And we're facing him down, and I rolled an unbelievable initiative. So he says, "What you gonna do?" And he sort of like, "Take your best shot." And I said, "Turn to goo." He's like, "Fine." Physical. He's like, "Oh, crap." Because the guy was a vampire, but he wasn't super strong. He was a huge mage. I couldn't touch him magically. And so he went blurp right into the pile of goo caused by the spell. And he's like, "Well, what are you going to do? It maintains for concentration." I said, "Yeah, that I know that." And I said, "Here's my character sheet." And he said, "What do? "I have road flares." "Yes." Plunk, tossed a road flare into the pile of goo.
Burn the witch.
He's like, "You can't hurt him when he's in goo." I said, "That's fine. I release concentration." He reformed with a burning road flare in his gut. Killed him. The GM, my crew was just dying on the floor. The GM was looking at me with somewhere between awe and hate.
Horror.
Yeah, horror would be it.
We got Otter last time too. He I'll tell this one real quick. I displayed part of it on the video. Anyway, there are these mutant like the cybernetic gang, and they're rolling up on us. They're trying to take our police escort like robot that we've been paid to test out on behalf of the government, and we're not having it. And ultimately, like, we're surrounded by these guys. They're terrible. And the main bad guy, he's tough as nails. He has bennies, and he has extra wounds and all the nonsense. And so I'm like, my shooting has been so bad this game. I'm like, I'm gonna perform melee. I'm like, wait, I just remembered something. He's a cyborg, and I have a cattle prod.
Yeah, I heard what you did with that cattle prod.
It almost, if he didn't have extra wounds and bennies, he would have been dead. And then Stormcrow came in with his he's a cyborg too. He has a detachable weapon, so to say. And so we finished him off with DP, and that's how that session
it spiraled out of control from there.
Yeah, like the DM, he was responsible. He most of the bad guys saw that and ran away, which is fair.
I would.
Is fair. Yeah, me too. I'll be like, what the? Nope, I'm out.
Yeah, check, please.
Oh, goodness gracious. Hey, we are joined by Resonant One.
That's
Welcome.
me. Go on now, you know who that is.
So what? Yeah, I do. So we talked about a negative one. So what's a positive one where the community comes around something and it kind of changes the way people perceive it, and possibly in a good way? I have one that you may not agree with. It maybe have to do with age and proximity a little bit, but I think in some ways, Lord of the Rings. When the Peter Jackson films came out, it affected a whole generation of people, and I was in that generation. And I thought it was a really special way to bring together a very different groups of people who maybe wouldn't have gotten how to have had that connection point up until then. And it kind of changed. It did alter my reading experience when I did finally read the books as well, because it's hard not to read one or watch one without thinking of the other now.
Well,
like I said, you may have a different opinion on this one. I was just curious.
I know that the hippies would probably have a different opinion on it because they believe but they are the generation that really discovered Tolkien and made his life a bit of a hell.
Yeah.
But yeah, the revitalization. Yeah. All right. Sorry, RH, you're not hurting me here. You can't. I've got 40 years of GMing experience.
Oh, and she's played her share of those games. I'm sure she's seen all sorts of stuff.
Oh, I'm sure she has too. I don't know if I could say one way or the other about the perception that way about it. I know that basically having Peter Jackson basically defined in people's minds
the aesthetic, perhaps.
Yeah, the aesthetic. And so first off, you're touching on one of Bambo's two subjects that she can go off for hours on.
I heard, I remember.
Yeah, the other is theology. Yeah. But I agree with her that Peter Jackson did a better job in fleshing out the characters and creating the interpersonal stuff than Tolkien did. And that really, I think, helped a lot of the understanding of the work especially for modern audiences that I gotta say, a lot of modern audiences have no inner graphics chip, so to speak, to generate their own visions of what these are.
Yeah.
And
so also people can interpret things so differently too. Did you ever see Tolkien's illustrations? They're they're weird, dude. I don't dislike them, but they're very, very different than what we see.
It's funny. I had a conversation with my cousin who had read the book. We sat down for dinner one time to basically understand to get their feedback on it when they were beta reading. And I asked them, so who did you picture? Even though he's on the cover, I asked them what they pictured Brother Finn like. I asked whom they pictured Friar Ingi like, and you haven't gotten. He shows up in book 2. Friar Ingi shows up, and so I asked them about these characters, and they were giving me actors that I'd never heard of. I'm like, and when I looked them up, I was like, oh my god, that's way off what it is. But that's what they ended up picturing because it's their own life view of it all. It's their own experience that filters through the work, and that's going to happen every time. And of course, time and events are going to shape popular view. I mean, like you said, you started with an opinion that was one way, and over time with Star Wars, it shifted because of what's happened to it, unfortunately falling apart. I have a theory on some of that stuff, which I'm going to say is basically cultural vandalism. They are trying to hurt your love. They're trying to hurt your love for these classic IPs by poisoning the idea and continue.
It's even worse. It's not just about destruction; it's about corruption.
Yeah,
not obliterating, but taking something good and turning it into something bad. It's very malevolent. Honestly,
it's making orcs out of elves, baby.
Yeah, it's like in Lord of the Rings. That's very topical. It's like they weren't destroyed; they were turned into something far, far worse than you can imagine.
Tron into Rinsler, man. There's another one for you.
Oh.
Tron was made into Rinsler. Take a look at. I mean, let's face it. There's dozens of different ways to look at it. Indiana Jones. I have not watched since The Last Crusade. I will not watch any of them since The Last Crusade because I want to pursue. Skull. I want to preserve it, and that, unfortunately, in my mind, means that if they're not doing something based on the biblical artifacts in there, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Even the Temple of Doom, although I like and appreciate that film, it doesn't work as well. There's just some little thing interesting. Or there's something missing there that's interesting in the others. Yes, that's very true.
Yeah, animation, you're 100% on that one. You won't find any naysayers to that one here.
No, not at all. But at the same time, if you decide to, so as Bambo is very fond of telling me, is that Rings of Power is nothing more than $1 billion fanfic student film. And it's not canon. And it's not that she's, falling into the same canon police. She's like, no, I'm a fan of Tolkien and I'm a fan of his works. I'm not accepting all this. I mean, if there was some legitimate ways where they were trying to honor Tolkien's work and not try to corrupt it or anything.
It wasn't authentic.
No, it never was.
It was
never intended to be.
It was they wanted their ideals, their story to be told with the clothing of the Lord of the Rings, and that's what they did.
Yes, that's exactly it. They put on Tolkien face and went to town. That's exactly what they did. It's the same.
A modern crime for a modern people. Tolkien face.
Yeah, that's it. But the point is that they are trying to use the IPs to either evangelize their own twisted view of the world. I don't remember. I saw a video.
Their own twisted faith.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry, but
the older I get, the more obvious it seems to me. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Remember this: the old gods never died; they just rebranded. We are still facing these eternal demons in the world, and all they're doing is rebranding, and they are fooling people with their rebranding. I mean, you even think about it, the Bible warns about following after gods their fathers didn't know. And that's what we have. And these are worldly things. They're following the creation. They're following the rebranding.
Nothing's new. It just has a new face.
Well, history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme.
Yeah.
I sort of view it as a spiral. You may show up on the same point, but you're up one level.
I've been reading The Wheel of Time recently, so it's like that. That's always
I've never read it.
Talking about.
Yeah. I know that's in there because one of my friends is a huge Robert Jordan fan. I've never read it. It just never captured my attention.
It's long form epic fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sanderson does it better, but I do like the book so far. And
I haven't read him
with your history, there's a different. The bar to entry is a little differently set than some people.
Okay, so is this? I've heard it pronounced Bernuke, but is it that or Bernanke? I've never gotten a clear pronunciation, but John has nailed it there. It is Stolen Valor.
That's exactly right. That's a great.
I'd actually used that phrase. I'd forgotten that I'd used that phrase till you just put it up there now. That is exactly what and that's what narcissism is. Okay, so it is Bernuke. Okay.
I was hoping it was. Hold on, sorry, I got to do this like. I'm Duke Nukem. His name is John Bernuke. I got balls of steel. Anyway.
I'm just not touching that with a 20-meter cattle prod.
He may like it, senor.
Back up. That's it. Sorry. Penalty, 10 yards, scaring the listener, 10 yards away from me.
Go to your corner.
Time out for you. But yeah, that's a lot of problems with a lot of writers. I've been seeing a lot of essays coming out, video essays about the terrible situation about the writer's room in Hollywood. It's because it's full of a lot of narcissists who have never had to struggle in life, or their struggles have been strictly the first world problem kind of stuff.
The arbitrary and the unimportant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of these are trust fund kids kind of thing, but also because of the narcissism is a disease of the mind that demands you give credit and status that was unearned. And
that's a great way of describing it. Actually,
it's stolen valor for social credit, social status, and that's how you get victimhood as a way to power. And that's wrong.
Weaponized victimhood.
Yeah, weaponized victimhood is a way to use because it's a weaponizing pity. That's what it is. Oh, you poor thing, you got hurt. I'm going to then take it easier on you. I'm going to give you things you do not deserve because I pity you. And people have weaponized it like little kids faking that they got injured, falling off the sofa onto a pillow. And they don't cry until they find somebody to cry to, and they get suckered in. This is what a
I
lot of writers
have
are
two
doing.
kids. I've watched this happen in real time. Kids do it, but normally good parents teach them to stop.
Yes, exactly. But we don't have parents teaching these children to stop, and now they're 30. It's a little past the window there.
I just turned 30, so
You poor
Crap.
thing.
I
I'm
know,
so
I know.
sorry. The big 3-0, dude. I'm looking at 3-0 in the rearview mirror so far. I miss my
You're pulling out
30s.
the binoculars, like, whoa! I remember the.
Dude, I can't even see it over the horizon. I'm an old fart.
Okay, so let's talk about your book too, because I was looking at your Amazon page.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like Royce. Hey, look, beer. Anyway,
Yeah. Jingle, jingle, shiny.
I will go. Let me share this page so I can
Go right ahead.
Let's see. I'm trying, man. Calm down.
Yep.
Anyway, so we have. So is
The
this book
Inheritance-
already out, or is it still
Yep.
coming? Okay.
Oh
it
no,
is
all
already
these books, all the books you see are out.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
The Inheritance Thieves is technically the first part of a trilogy story arc.
And so we have the first book, a Kiniwazi Saga. Then we
That's A Light Rises in a Dark World. That is a preview or a prequel essentially. It became a prequel.
Okay.
So you're getting what you're reading right now is sort of the setup for a trilogy story arc.
Okay, so we have.
I
A
need
Light Rises in the
reviews.
Dark World.
People read and give me reviews.
I'm happy to give reviews. I'm still
I
working
know
on
you
a few
are.
right now.
I know,
then-
I know.
And then we have book. This would be
2.
technically book 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's Bergamot,
The-
the 200-pound Havarian Mastiff.
and there's the dog. No, I'm kidding.
And there's your puppies. Yep, and that is Declan the Berserker, and Friar Ingi there is in the background, and there's Brother Finn on the ground about to get an axe to the face.
Yeah, that's. I'm looking. I'm like, this is looking grim, son. I'm sorry.
Yep, I had a fun time working with my artist, Paganus. He's out of Serbia, Sarajevo specifically. And that is Into the High Places, book 2 of it. Honestly, that is my favorite of the books. Unfortunately,
A lot of good book. Like I've noticed with good authors, a lot of
Mhm.
book 2s are really solid. Everybody has a particular part of the story they struggle with a bit more than the others.
Yep.
But if you have a good book 2, it's sometimes the best the story can have has
Mhm.
to offer in some ways.
Yep.
But
That
yeah,
book
no,
there-
his painterly style is gorgeous, and you can
He
tell him I
worked
said
really
so,
well
man,
with
it's
me.
fantastic.
well, I'm hoping I can pick him up for the next cover for the book 4 of the series, which is working title The Prodigal's Return. And that's prodigals in the plural.
Okay, prodigals in the plural.
Yes. Okay, so you see that dark light, right? Light Rises in the Dark World. That's the original. You cannot buy that anymore. That was the original with a much harder language, and that cost me a whole bunch of reviews.
Even the title looks different a little bit.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I flipped the title. I went with branding the series with a Kinawazi Saga and then doing everything in subtitle.
I
instead
think
of
that
the
was
other
the
ways
right
around.
choice, yeah.
Because
Because
I
it's hard
sat
to read in big text, let alone small text. It would have been, yeah, it's something.
Mhm.
And then we
Yeah.
have all our entries in the Dream Nebula.
Yep.
We
And
have,
that's
which one is first? That's going to be
Dream Nebula.
Dreams Within
Dreams.
Dreams. Tales
Yep.
from the Dream Nebula, Book 1.
Yep.
Lucid Reality. Tales from the Dream Nebula. Wait, we got to do this
Mhm.
right. Book 2. And then the one I've read, The Waking Nightmares, Tales from the Dream Nebula, Book 3.
Dreams Within
yeah.
Dreams and Lucid Reality are technically part 1 and part 2, like a pilot episode, because I am
Yeah,
writing it like a TV series.
Yep. And that's the thing too, because it's written in the more pulpy style, I was able to pick up book 3 and pretty much, like, there's obviously things I'm missing, but it wasn't ever so much that I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
keep up. I was able to jump into the story and have a great time all the way through, start to finish.
I tried to make sure that it was something you could do that. So I didn't want to bog you down with retelling anything, but at the same time, I wanted to at least give a hint. And I got that vibe. I got that confirmed to me, I guess, by reading another author. She wrote an excellent book. I jumped in at book 4 in the series. And I was like, okay, so she's given me enough hints to make me go want to read the earlier books, but she didn't sit there and spell it all out like some authors do, and it's like, well, why am I? You know, it's re-chewing chewed food.
100%. And John popped in earlier. I missed him at the moment, but congratulations on 500 subs.
Woo!
Thank you, John. I appreciate it, man. It was
congratulations.
My content is silly, but I'm working really hard, and I'm trying my best to make something that's both fun, funny, and hopefully impactful somewhere along the way as well. And John, you're an inspiration, man. You do a great interview, and yeah, your channel's had explosive growth, man. It's fantastic. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And then a good woo 500 from animation.
Yep, I just try to be a good guest. I don't have the kind of intestinal fortitude you do for running the channels like this. I just want to come on the channels and hang with y'all.
Well, you're a great guest, man. Like, that's the thing, man. It's not a criticism in the way that I'm going to make it sound like it. But some people, not you, some people aren't able. They're hard to hold a conversation with, and sometimes that comes down to the host. So if the host is off, or they're just not doing their job, or they don't understand their guest, it can be a bit of a tough connection. But like someone like you, you're as easy as a guest comes. You can talk on for a long time, but you're willing to have a conversation as well. You're not just a monologue that never ends. You can have a back and forth, which is important.
It's getting him to shut up. That's the trick.
I just talked to the Lord. Yes, Father. He says I'll be fine, but you're hooked.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I was channeling Donkey. I wasn't channeling Stephen the Crazed Irishman. Yes, I know the character.
I love that movie, and I love it for a lot of reasons. But one of them is that a friend of mine recently that I've become friends with this last year, Readout Productions, and his history channel. He is learning history. He has a degree in history, and he's very passionate about it. And that movie is very historically inaccurate.
Yeah, it's got some problems.
Well, it's like the weird one is like the dates. They got the dates wrong. The thing that wouldn't matter if you got it right or wrong. It's like a Google search. That's as easy as it. Yeah. It's incredible, man.
It is painful sometimes to see what they do to history. I mean, wow.
That being said, I love that movie. Like basically any Mel Gibson movie that's been made earnestly, I enjoy. That's the truth of it for me.
Someday I'm going to watch Passion of the Christ for a second time.
I used to make myself watch it once a year. I haven't done it in a couple, maybe 4 years, but
it's brutal. It's an important piece of cinema as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with that. Yeah.
It's one of those movies that leaves me in tears no matter what by the end. Sort of like another one like that is Schindler's List for me. There's two scenes that, forget it, I'm breaking down, especially the speech at the end. I could have gotten more. Done. I don't care. I'm gonna ugly cry right there.
I'm an emotional guy. So a movie or book that connects on that level, it's like there's even an anime, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, one of my favorite shows of all time. Period. Not just animation, but just any show.
If you want an anime that is gonna break your heart, Grave of the Fireflies. Grave of the Fireflies. Yeah,
I know.
Just always fun to watch a little girl die of starvation.
It's fun for the whole family.
Studio Ghibli, woo!
It's all sunshine and roses from here.
Bro, man, that's unicorns farting rainbows all over.
Well, it's like I have a lot of shows that make me emotional, but even a lot of anime. But like Full Metal, it's like there's even simple scenes, or it's not even that long, or like it's not even musically drawn out to draw the emotion, but it still gets me. Like there's a scene like this doctor, works for the military. He basically drove his family away because of the war crimes he helped perpetrate and commit. And so at some point, like he's hiding people in his house, and then his ex-wife and his son, who's now an adult and a respectable person, comes by, and they're like, hey, we're passing by. I wanted to say hi. It's like, as they're coming in, he's just like praying to himself. He's like, just give me one moment of happiness with my family. I don't deserve it. I'm like, bro, every damn time. Every damn time.
That's And I'll admit, I started watching Full Metal Alchemist, and when I realized kind of the supernatural stuff, I had to stop watching. I liked it.
It's heavy-handed, but it's
well, it's the supernatural stuff. Unfortunately, it bumped into my faith wall, and I was like, crap, I like this, and I can't watch it.
It completely, like, I anticipated that. Unfortunately, it ties into a lot of biblical themes. Actually, the further you go into it, too, it's really bizarre. But
I have to stay away from thaumaturgy, and that's pretty much the center of all of it. Alchemists and thaumaturgy, the way they have it set up.
What is the value of a human soul? And you're like, nope, I'm out.
But dude, no, that's the one, exactly the whole first title of my book blurb. What's the value of a human soul? That's not the question mark. It's just how they handle all the stuff after that. And I'm like, dang it, this is a good show. I'm interested. I want to learn more about these brothers.
A woman wrote a story about brothers, and it's one of the best brother stories I've ever seen. Period. I'm like, I don't know how she, like, you don't have to write what you know. You have to write what you're interested in. But she wrote it so convincingly. I'm like, I don't understand how someone who's not a brother and has a brother can write a story like this. I just don't. Yeah.
I don't have a brother, so I have a younger sister. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So I don't have that connection.
Animation overload. He brings up a good point. It's great.
Yes.
Oh.
There's your can. Cut, print, put it in the can.
That's all you need, man. But
yeah, you have to have some sincerity.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. But it is starting to get late, and I have done 3 live streams today, so we're kind of going to start wrapping up.
You're going to start wrapping up. You've been busy today. I've had one other interview today. So,
good for you, man. Good for you.
Yeah, surprise, surprise.
Who was it with? Who was it with? Shill.
Shill? Oh, it's for Horizon Talker.
He and I, we've been sharing guests. We've been passing guests back and forth like girls at a party, man. It's weird, but
I feel a little violated here. You might want to rephrase that.
Can you put on that dress anyway?
I can only put on a muumuu, and you don't want that.
No. It's like at this point, my chat and people in my community are like, we're just happy if he has his clothing on.
I'm happy you have your clothing on.
Well, it's like it's become a theme now. I start and all my announcement videos are me in the shower. And
I'm noticing that theme. I'm like, what the what?
I'm like, this is like, it's not showing anything. It's definitely not worse than a hot tub stream, so it's fine. But anyway,
oh god,
I'm not tempting anyone for anyone. Yeah, so
no.
Oh
no. Come on, don't cause. Okay, Bambo's been experimenting with cooking lately, and she's made restaurant grade sweet and sour pork, and for an experiment tonight, we had chocolate covered cheesecake with bacon jam, and it works.
Oh,
don't make that come back up. It's wild. It works. Bacon jam and chocolate works on cheesecake. Try it. Seriously. It is so awesome.
I'll try it once for you, man, but I'm pretty. Yeah.
If you like bacon and you like chocolate, don't ask me why they work, but they do.
Okay. You beat me. You beat me. I got it.
Just
not again.
Yeah.
But so tell people where they can find you. Also, we didn't even get to talk about it this time. We can always do it on another show sometime. But he makes music, and it's good. We listen to some of the tracks on here.
Yeah, I hope to be able to start putting stuff together, get it out there for people to purchase. But where you can find me, and yes, I will be happy to come back and talk about all sorts of other stuff. You ought to know by now. You can. I actually
have you specifically in mind for a panel discussion I want to do later this year. And it's no spoilers for what it is yet. I'll tell you when we kick off, but yeah.
Okay. Well, where you can find me, the easiest and most common place is, of course, Amazon. You can find all 6 of my books there. I do also have books available on Smashwords. And that also puts me on Kobo and on.
If you have those, you can give them to me in the private chat, and I'll share them. But I have given them your Amazon page a couple times here.
Yep, perfect. You can also, believe it or not, you can find me on Walmart, Barnes and Noble. Yes, you can buy the books from Walmart, Books A Million, and also you can order them through any of your favorite local bookstores. Yeah, exactly. That it blew me away the first time I'm doing a search on my books and I came up in Walmart. I was like, okay, that's just cool.
Yeah,
that ranks up there with discovering one of my books is in the Royal Library of Dubai.
What?
Don't ask me how it happened. I'm in the because
how do you know though?
I came across their website. It showed up when I did a search for one of my books, and I do search my book titles and my series titles on a fairly regular basis just to see. And that's how I know that my first book is on like 200 pirate sites. So if you're downloading it from a place that you're getting it for free, congratulations, you have a virus. I'd recommend doing something about that.
It's like, guys, this is awful. Here are the links. Don't click on them.
Yeah, you go right ahead. Have fun.
I know.
I'll enjoy your bank account.
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
no, it's not my pirate site. Somebody's going to enjoy your bank account.
Someone's going to, yeah.
It's
like
also
it's like with
it's
like
uncontrollable.
why would you pirate? What's even the purpose of pirating something that you can actually get? What I do I don't agree, but I do understand when people but I mean, like, while being ethical, like I've seen some people pirate stuff that you can't get access to otherwise, and with that, I understand, even if I still disagree.
Or it's price completely unreasonable. I see why people pirate. It's like that the joke meme going around is when streaming companies forget that their business model is just being slightly easier to do than piracy. And you have the picture of Captain Barbosa going like, oops.
Like,
yeah, don't forget that fact on where your bread is buttered. But yeah, otherwise, order from your favorite local bookstore. The Ingram Spark Network will get it anywhere worldwide. So we're settled on that. If you are interested in a free short story from Tales from the Dream Nebula, especially if you've read the first novel, you can go and sign up for my newsletter. It might give you a little guff. Just make sure you send the confirmation letter back. It usually ends up in people's junk or spam folder, and then it should go through without problem. We put out a newsletter about once every other month. 1 to 2 months it goes out because consistency. I've heard of it, and apparently I'm allergic. Otherwise, future projects. I am working on editing a novella for Akinawazi Saga, unrelated to the main storyline. And I'm possibly going to make it perma-free.
Ooh.
That's
an interesting decision.
I have come to the point where I will never offer anything temporarily free. If it's going to be free, it's going to flat out be free.
It's free. Yeah.
Because let's face it, I made the mistake once of putting something out temporarily free, and it was part 1 of book 1 of Akinawazi Saga. And that's how suddenly I got lots of downloads, but a lot of those went right to pirate sites where they started charging for something that was free and packing it full of viruses. And so I'm like, no, if it's going to be free, it's going to be forever free. And this one this was my NaNoWriMo winner, the novella I did. So it's just over 50,000 words, and it's based off of a classic play that amazingly converted well to my Akinawazi setting. So it's not attached to the main storyline, but it has the world and the culture in there. And then, of course, I hope to have this year, God willing, the 4th book of Akinawazi Saga, The Prodigal's Return. I hope to have finished, and that will take care of the story, the trilogy story arc. It's about 35%.
Yes.
It's about 35% done. If you're enjoying what you're reading so far with the Akinawazi Saga, I'll just tell you.
It has good prose, and it's written very, very well. Like it's even cleaner than Dream Nebula stuff, and it's really. It reads cleaner to me a little bit.
It's a different voice completely. You talk about
completely different. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's why I picked Tone for you, because you have two
Yeah.
series and they're tonally completely different.
and I don't know how I managed it other than I set a couple different rules for myself. The first one is that there are no contractions in all of Akinawazi Saga. Not one. And trust me, after a while, it gets irritating for looking for the N apostrophe T's. It can be frustrating. And also I stuck to, limiting where I put in the actual language. And I always try to have in the back of my head, trying to keep the cultural tone in there. All right, is this really what would be their attitude for being a, early Renaissance, late Middle Age culture?
Don't bring too much modern thinking into an older story. It doesn't work.
Thanks for reminding me of something in that regard. The biggest thing that I've been seeing with a lot of Iron Age fantasy, well, actually it's been any indie fantasy in general, is modern phraseology and scientific method. Amazingly enough, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but modern scientific
the world.
It did. Yeah. So you have to, if you're writing fantasy, you got to find a way to break yourself of viewing things as much as possible through this scientific lens and start reverting back to a more holistic view of the world. Even down to the
more spiritual, more mystical.
Superstitious, more superstitious. That's the biggest thing of all. Where we see science and elements and physics, they didn't at all. Yes, engineering was advanced. And when I sat there, when I decided I was going to give the culture steam power, I had to sit there and go, okay, so what do I have to put together to make a steamboat, let alone a steam engine? And I'm going, oh my God, I need replaceable parts. I need springs. I need screw technology. These little things.
It changes a lot.
Yes, there are certain fundamental skills and knowledge that you have to change the world, to have it in there and make it believable. In the fourth book, I'll tell you right now, so this is not really a spoiler because it doesn't have context, but I do a scene where you have men working in how they're forging iron for parts for boilers. And
is it like a proto assembly line kind of thing?
No, it isn't. I took away the assembly line. At least, okay. I should have amended that. Early industrialization allows for an assembly line, but it's not a moving assembly line. That was Henry Ford's creation. So if you have an assembly line, yes, it can move from place to place to place, and you have craftsmen that do it. But mostly, especially when it comes to renewal with replaceable parts, you almost need that. And so they have the Eli Whitney evolution of the replaceable parts, or the interchangeable parts. That's the word I was looking for.
It has to be a process that is readily duplicatable.
Yes,
you have to have replaceable
simple
parts.
And duplicatable, and that way you can get multiples. Now, of course, a single craftsman like Stevenson created the moving kettle for England, the rocket. That's all handcrafted, but they still had these other technologies in the early stages of interchangeable parts and other things. But I had to go and look back at the technology available in, say, about 1400 to see what was possibly even reasonable. It's like, okay. And this is also a problem that I have with a lot of things. The steam power that I wanted in there, I do not have magic steam. This is not steampunk in magic steam.
This isn't Attack on Titan.
This is not the Wild Wild West where you have giant steam powered walkers that would technically need computerized servos to be able to maintain balance, let alone move properly.
Impossible.
It's all realistic steam based steam power. So it's
like proto hydraulics kind of. I've seen steam stuff that did work like that.
Yeah, they used a lot of pneumatics. You had the old water engines. What was it? Oh, atmospheric engines. That was what they called them. And they used those to clear out
I know
mines.
very little about steam power devices.
I'm being a rail fan and loving steam engines. That's where a lot of this came from. But I had to do all the tech dive on when some of these technologies were done to see, all right, can I bump this forward 200 years and still kind of work? And it's like, all right, I'm going to give them some divine inspiration on basically not outstripping the technology, but basically letting them do the intuitive leap to put it together this way. Because, I mean, the basics of the steam engine has been known since days of Rome.
A long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. They had that.
Like, if you believe certain ideas, even before that as well. Like,
potentially, yeah.
Library of Alexandria and all that jazz. But anyway.
Yeah. And so lost tech. But I had to put that all together and then try to keep it in context and not go crazy with it, because I mean, the craziest thing I create is a weapon in there called the Eldroyer, which is basically a steam-powered cannon that sprays molten lead.
Ooh.
It's a siege weapon.
Yeah, that'll do the trick.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a siege weapon. It's sort of a anti-siege weapon or an earth. It's
not a gun. It's a nug.
It's a nug. Yes, a WW8 nug. Or a WW88 nug. Thank you so much, Frank Burns. Actually, no, that was Colonel Blake. That was Henry Blake.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yep, he was the one making the radio call. Then they turned it right side out. An 88 millimeter gun. No.
And so, when is that book of yours coming out?
I'm hoping December.
Most likely.
I'm hoping December. I really, really am. And Bridget has promised to break my knees, a la Misery style, if I don't. But it's fighting with me. It's fighting with me, and I'm really upset.
The last one.
I think that's part of it. I'm starting to realize I'm having the same vibes when it came to rewriting the ending of my first book, and going, "Oh God, how do I get these? I have like 12 plot lines I have to weave together, and now book 4. I wish it was only 12."
They don't need to all be resolved, but a certain proportion of them do.
About 18 of them need to be resolved. Yeah, it's every character has a story arc that needs to complete.
Hold on, I'm going to do this for you.
Yeah. Not hard enough, not enough follow through, no splatter in the back so far. So you're not hitting hard enough. Besides, I wouldn't want to get your books dirty if you did it that hard for me.
No, not my beautiful Lucent and what else. Oh, we got a lot of books back there.
No, yeah, you got a lot of them. I'm just happy I'm on the rack. I'm happy I'm on your rack.
Actually, your book for this conversation has been the stand for my Neon Evangelion little figurine I have here.
Marvy Fab far out. After that, I hope there's like 4 different things I want to do for Dream Nebula. Once I get this done, I have a trilogy that's building in my head for the next stage of Winston's trials, travails, and troubles. And I also have what I'm calling for my amplified world. I want to convert the Khan adventure into a novella. I think it would be a lot of fun. It would be, like I said, amplified world. It would be off the main world or off the main story, but in the world nonetheless.
Attached, but not direct.
And I would like to get out this year the omnibus for Dream Nebula, because there are currently 2 short stories that have not been included so far. And one of them I'm trying to finish up, and the other one is already finished, and it will add a lot more color to the ending of The Waking Nightmares when it's done.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I've read a couple novellas like that in the whole like shared universe kind of thing from certain authors, and if you're a good author, you can pull it off. Otherwise, it's just like, because it's not part of the main story. If it's not to your taste, it's not. Right. It doesn't break the experience, but
the short story, the short freebie story is out on my newsletter. That's called Cold Pursuit of a Hot Case, and that is sort of a prequel story for the first novel. And take care, animation. And that one was a fun little thing to put out there, and I'd like to include that in the omnibus and go forward from there. So there's a lot of stuff that I want to get done. The question is, can I get done? And otherwise, I will be at in 2 weeks now, Big Lick Comic-Con. I will be vending there in Roanoke, Virginia, And we have a few other. Yes, I believe the Tim Allen has threatened to show up there and visit me. We've gone to it. We've ended at it last August, and so we're giving it a try this February. We attended it as visitors a couple of years ago. That's what made us go, we got to do these cons. This is where my audience is at, and so we're hoping that it turns out really well. And the other two, well, we have a few other events, but most of them don't hit until June. June is going to be crazy busy. We're going to be at Rise Up Con, which is Kevin Sorbo's new. Kevin Sorbo is doing a new Christian-based family con there, and so we're looking forward to that.
It's like a regular con, but without the drug rave after parties and the scantily clad people.
Yeah, and not everything pushing the alphabet agenda at you.
See, it's been like a decade since I went to a real con, like Emerald City, which would be the one I can't imagine. I can't imagine what it's like now. I can't.
Unfortunately, one of the biggest Comic-Con we went to before that, unfortunately, was, let's put it this way, you prayed a lot. You prayed a lot because there were a lot of very, very damaged people there that really
need what they don't want.
Well, they got what they don't need, and they need something a lot healthier than what they're doing. I mean, I feel very bad for a lot of those people, but at the same time, you just sort of have to say, okay, you're going to be you, I'm going to be me. If you become a fan of my work, hey, thank you. That's one of the biggest things I get, and especially to a lot of these people with all the infighting that's going on right now in the whole indie field.
Silly.
Just stop. Just stop. Let people be fans of what they want to be fans. If they're going to follow you, they're going to follow you. And you have no control over that. My best example of this is the fact that Ivana Trump bought some paintings from an artist that absolutely was Trump derangement syndrome, 100%. She had those paintings show up in a newspaper article. I think it was in the Washington Post of all places, or maybe it was the New Yorker or something like that. But he saw his paintings on the wall and freaked out and contacted her and said, I don't want you to be a fan of my work. I will buy those paintings back for you for whatever you paid. I will buy them back for you for that amount. And she said no. And I love her work. I think it's fantastic. I mean, you don't have to like my dad, but no, I appreciate your work, and it means something.
Say that Tom Cruise is a nut and still like Top Gun Maverick. You can do both things.
Exactly. You can. There are certain actors that I won't support that way. Tim Robbins. And a few others, but the point is that you can't control who's going to be your fan. Be grateful for you that you have a fan.
Yeah.
And just leave it at that in the end. So.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's good closing words.
I think so. Anyway, alas, thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching the second episode of Iron Age Legends.
I'm a legend now. Hooray!
You are, man. There. Whoa there.
Whoa there, guys. Hold on.
It's the Wizard of Oz. He's come to get me.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Because, la, 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 la.
Anyway.
And now it's... there you go, Herman. I have a fan.
There you go.
You're not using it enough then.
I love you, Herman. I don't know what I'd do without your support. But anyway, no, I have two criteria, really like unbreakable criteria for someone being an Iron Age legend and being on this show. There's one. I have to have actually gone through a decent portion of your work, and I have gone through enough, barely enough, but enough. And I have to like it and be willing to recommend it to someone else.
Well, I appreciate
and I do. That. You and your work qualify. You're a worthy guest, and I'm honored that you came onto this show with me. It means a lot to me.
I'm honored that you'd have me. I'm not quite Groucho Marx level of I don't want to be a part of any club that would have me as a member. But yes, thank you so much for having me on, man. I really have a lot of fun with you.
Absolutely. So, love you, Chad. Thank you for coming to this episode, the second episode of Iron Age Legends. I will be doing many more here soon. I believe Anthony M. Harris may be the third episode, so he and I are talking about that. But thank you so much for being here, guys.
Hey,
God bless.
when are you going to get Herman on, man? Get Herman on.
I don't know, man. I like Herman a lot, but I'm scared of him. I don't know him that well. We'll see. No,
oh, he's a pussycat.
Yes, queen.
All right.
On
Black
that note,
Dios, all.
good night, y'all.